Going to be a how-to series on saltwater fly fishing in California. We're going to cover float tubing, saltwater bays. We're going to cover surf fishing. We're going to cover tying flies. We're going to cover building shooting heads. So we're just going to cover a large range of different things. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Stanley fly fishing equipment. I'm here to show you some techniques about taking your float tube out on the bays of California. It's really great fun, it's really simple, and I just want to give you a rundown on what equipment you're going to need and everything else. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about what you're going to need while you're out on a float tube. One thing you're going to need a life jacket. This is required by the Coast Guard to have on your boat at all times. They will stop you, so make sure you have one. It's also good for safety, obviously. You don't need to wear one, but you do need to have one. Another safety piece is a jacket. You need to have a jacket. It gets very cold out on the bay. Your temperature can drop. You can end up hypothermic pretty quickly. So you need to bring a good jacket. In the winter, I use a soft shell jacket. In the summer, I use a hard shell jacket. Only on the warmest summer days in the middle of the day can I be out there without a jacket and a knit hat on. So definitely keep a jacket in mind. Since you're bringing a jacket, you need to keep it dry. I highly recommend a dry bag. You need one of these just to keep your gear dry and safe. They're great just for general boating needs and everything like that. This one's a little big for my float tube, but I still use it out there. But it's a good idea to have one. Another piece of gear you're going to need is fins. So I use a standard dive scuba fin. I wouldn't recommend using standard wader fins. They're a lot shorter. These will give you a lot more power and the ability to move a little faster through the water and fight those incoming and outgoing tides. The other piece of gear you're going to want is you're going to want booties. Booties keep your feet warmer. Pretty much our water temperature in California is 55 to 70 degrees, so I highly recommend a pair of these. They also keep your feet a lot cleaner, so in and out of the water just keeps the sand out. Makes for a lot more comfortable floating experience. You're going to need a good quality pump. This will allow you to get the pressure up and on your float tube to the correct inflation according to your manufacturer. I recommend one of these over electric pumps. These are pretty cheap and they just work really well and they're pretty much bombers. So. You're also going to want a stripping basket. This is just going to keep your line from getting tangled around your feet and everything like that. So highly recommend one of these. They also come with most of the float tubes that are on the market. So this is just the Fish Cat one that comes with the Fish Cat float tube. The basics of the gear you're going to need to be safe while you're out there. Let's talk a little bit about the equipment. So this right here is a 7-weight rod. I recommend a rod between 6 and 8 weight. I really like fishing 7s. They handle the wind really well. They handle the heavier shooting heads that we'll be fishing here, and the little bit heavier flies. So I highly recommend a good 7-weight matching reel. That's a simple setup for the bay. I also recommend picking up a leaf clip. They're really handy, as you can see, just keeping the line taut while I don't have a fly on. So highly recommend that too. Let's go into a little bit of detail about the gear you're going to need. That's kind of the small things. Things like flies, nippers, and everything like that. So let's dive into this pocket here. I'm going to show you some of the gear we're going to need. So first piece up, a pair of needle nose pliers. I find these critical for taking flies out of toothy fish. Don't let the halibut bite you. Don't be lazy, grab these when you need them. Alright, let's talk a little bit about flies. This top section here, these are closure patterns. They imitate bait fish. There's a couple local styles. We're going to dive in later about how to actually tie these. That's going to be part of this how-to series where we're going to actually go into doing some fly tying for you guys, and you check those out. On this side we've got crab and shrimp patterns. Again, we're going to cover a couple of these patterns later, but that's kind of how I divide up my box. So I run a running line shooting head system. Right now I've got a clear intermediate line on there. In this bag I've got alternative lines. So I've got a lead core, 20 foot long, 300 grain line. That's my deep diver. It goes way down really fast. 40 feet, something like that, I'll be using that. The black line here is 250 grains. It goes down pretty quick too, but I use it also. I prefer the intermediate line in bays, just a little slower sink. Current's not that fast, so it works fine in bays to use the intermediate line. We also are going to cover how to make a shooting head and how to make a braided loop, so stand by for that too. Fluorocarbon, or in this case this is monofilament, 17-pound mono. I also run 8-pound fluorocarbon. I probably use the fluorocarbon the most. This one I just have in case I run into something toothy and I need a little extra strength. This tin, keep my nipper and my line clip. These are great to have, so don't forget your tape measure. You're going to need to know the length of fish here in California to keep it, so tape measure is really critical. Another cool piece of gear that I have that I've just started using and I really like it is a Fish Hunter fish finder. This thing was pretty sweet. It Bluetooths in with my smartphone, so I can track bait fish and things like that throughout the bay. It's really up my game. I highly recommend one of these too. Alright, we are into the technique section of how to fish from a float tube. You can troll along the front edge of boats. This is one of my favorites. Make sure to follow the current from the incoming or outgoing tide. You can also troll out from an empty berth. This works really effectively. And also casting in and around pilings. Alright, make sure to shake your tip. This will animate your fly. And also, you can also use like a jigging method. It's one of my favorites. And for casting around pilings, you can just strip. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to show you more videos in the future, and stay tuned for more how-tos.